beautiful people, and welcome to an extraordinarily special edition of Lost in the Dark podcast. This episode, this is this is a motherfucker. This episode features Clint Franklin, and he is in the band Recorruptor. He is responsible for the snarling lead vocals, and every year online he does a big album of his albums of the year, top albums of the year list. And he reached out to us a few weeks back and asked if he could do his list this year on the podcast. And we lost our shit. We were unbelievably excited. So we were very happy to come together and do this. This list is 100 albums long. We had no real idea how long this was going to take when we got started. So it ended up being we got 8 fucking hours, believe it or not. It's 8 hours of us sitting down and talking about these albums on Clint's list. It was unreal. It was a fantastic time. Loved every second of it. And so we decided not to post it all. We'll post it all. We're posting everything in one day, but there'll be 4 videos. 100 through 75, 74 to 50, etc. So that we're going to break it up. And because of where I had to make some cuts, I didn't like how it just like ended super flat because we were just going. We weren't really stopping. We took some breaks and stuff, but so I wanted to just jump in here and yeah, give it a little intro and a little outro at the end. But yeah, so this right here, what you're about to hear is albums 100 through 75. Clint's 100th album of the year to the 75th. And I hope you enjoy. And welcome back to Lost in the Dark podcast, everybody. This is a special episode, to say the least. We have a very special guest. Clint is back in the crypt, lead vocalist.
What's going on?
Yo. Aaron is here with us.
Aaron, I like Aaron. He's good people.
Shucks. Thanks, man.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
This is a very special episode. Clint, you are here to give us your top 100 albums of the year list.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's fucking insane.
It's a little intimidating.
It is because for the record, I think I've only heard like 20 new albums this year.
Oh, damn.
So the fact that you've heard 100 is insane.
I mean, when you think about it, I've heard probably way more than that.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I'm sure you heard things that didn't make this list.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I sent you a thing I saw the other day. There's like a list online of like all the metal albums that came out this year, and there's like 400 of them or something crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't even know if that's, like, how do they know?
Oh, well,
You know?
I know a fella. Well, I don't know him, but I became acquainted with him this year, and he actually is aiming for 500.
Whoa.
I talked to him in
shit.
September, and he had about 430 at that point.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here
Holy
like, dude, I
shit.
can't even digest that.
No, yeah, that's the thing, is how do you really absorb that many albums? Like,
You're talking about more than an album a day.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's insane.
I mean, more power to him, man. I wish that I had that dedication, but I don't think I'm sitting too far behind anyway.
No, I mean, no, you're not, because we only do 15. So this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be
Even-
fun.
I'm excited.
Even that this year was quite a task because like there's so much stuff that's come out that I've heard and I've been excited about, and then like the next week or the next month something else will come out. It's
Oh,
like,
it's
there's
insane.
this thing.
It's
but
relentless.
wait, like yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually what I wanted to bring up was because of I think with this list especially, I can't say that there's more than 10 records that are on the list that came out early in the year. I was actually wondering what was going to go on for 2019 because it felt a little slow, but goddamn, man, once it hit like May or June, it was like every week there was something new to be excited about, and it filled up because I normally do just 50. That's what I did last year. I did 50 records, and then the way things were going, I was just like, this is not gonna work. I can't ignore all these great pieces. So,
Hell yeah.
yeah. So,
Well,
do you want to? Are you guys gonna do year 15?
yeah.
Okay.
Not today.
Not today.
Not today,
Okay.
no.
Cool.
This, however, this will significantly influence
It probably
some
will.
of those choices.
Gotcha.
That's very likely.
And like the thing that we were kind of talking about is like, cause I've noticed a lot of yours are like underground, more so, and that's kind of what's exciting about it to me, because it's a chance to maybe pick up on some stuff that I either missed or just had no idea it existed.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we can definitely get to doing that, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. Before we start, I did want to say a couple of things. You know, like I said, last year we had 50 records. This year we're doing 100. And I mean, which is insane because 2018 realistically was also very great for metal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the records
Lots of-
that, I mean, the top 10 that I had last year, I still, it's regular.
Still
you know
listen
what
to
I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's really crazy to, you know, see 2019 pulling through so much harder. And I think that this is a year that is going to be remembered for a long time because of, you know, all the quality that came out here. Having said that, I do want to say, you know, mostly for the listeners, obviously, if you don't hear me talk about an album on this list, I either didn't hear about it, which I know it seems crazy, but you
It's
know,
possible.
there's probably going to be a couple obvious ones that aren't on here that I either straight up forgot about or just didn't get around to listening to it, or it just didn't appeal to me. You know, everybody's got their opinions, and that includes me just the same. You know, all these records affected me in a positive light enough to include it in here. So,
Wasn't there one that we just talked about beforehand that you remembered you forgot? Did you want to mention it?
Yeah. Actually, there's a couple that I wanted to put out there.
Some honorable mentions in there.
Yeah, some honorable mentions that should have had a place on the list, realistically, but I'm a dumb fuck and forgot about it. The first one being a local band from the area called Centenary. They put out a record this year that is absolutely fantastic. Swedish influenced death metal.
Nice.
You know, just very
that.
chainsaw, buzzsaw style death metal, and I listened to it a lot.
What's-
it was really good.
Name of the album?
Shit.
They're a really good live band as well.
Yes, they are.
I know you guys have played with them a couple of times. But
Like the fact that they can capture that,
it's very like
sound.
like
live.
entombed kind of.
Yeah,
like
in
that
total
Swedish.
entombed, dismember,
Yeah.
even a little bit of bloodbath in there. You know, they worship all that shit, and I fucking love it. I'm looking up the name right now. I'm really blanking. I want to say it. Yeah, that's it. Into the Graveless Beyond by Centenary.
Nice.
Came out late in the year, and it is fantastic. Absolutely check that record out. Other than that, you know, like I was saying, you know, I included all these albums in the list so that way I can give promotion to them one way or another. So if they're on the list, that means I enjoyed it to somewhat of an extent to be, you know, to want to promote it. So I know I'm friends with a lot of band people that might be listening to this or will be reading these entries as I post them online. Don't be discouraged, you know. 100% wherever your album is on the list, you know. I just, you know, the point of this is just to shed some light on your band.
Yeah, here's a question for you, because this is for our list. We do the top 15, but it's not necessarily in our, like, the number one slot's the number one slot, but all the rest of them, it's not in a particular order. These are just our top 15. Is this just your top 100, or is this very specifically like, this is my 100th favorite, 99th favorite?
This is very specific.
Okay.
Every single album is organized and ranked purposefully.
All right. Nice.
Down to a T.
All right.
You know. And that took a long time.
Yeah.
I think I sent you a picture of it. I had to literally write every single entry out on a little
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
like a little card.
Yeah.
and had to physically organize it because I just could not decide on what I wanted. It took me forever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a lot. You know, other than that, if you do see anything missing on the list, whether it's you guys or whether it's the listeners, always feel free to throw out a suggestion. I'm always looking for new shit to listen to.
Absolutely.
It's always, that's the name of the game, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just here to fucking listen to sick music.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, finally, just remember these are my own personal opinions. These, these are my own thoughts, my own transcriptions on how I perceived each and every album. Nothing in this list should be seen as a fact. For the most part, obviously there will be, certain facts, but as far as like the ranking of it, it's all my opinion, and I certainly hope to make it clear that every entry in here is put here just because I felt like it deserved recognition.
Hell yeah.
And then one last thing, actually, I wanted to talk about because I just wanted to shed some light. I came up with this today, looking through all the facts. I just wanted to talk about the labels that put out these albums, and kind of highlight, who did best. And I did notice something really interesting because this list had a lot of underground entries.
Yeah.
Which means there's a lot of underground labels that a lot of people don't really know about that had one or two albums on there. So, but other than that, the big ones are on here. Like Roadrunner had a couple that were on here. Century Media had a few. Actually, my top one as far as big labels go was a tie between Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. When you're that big and you have that much money to throw around per se, we're talking metal here, so is it really that much money?
Right,
but,
exactly.
To shovel out, they have the bands, man.
Yeah, they
have
do.
The bands, but as far as underground stuff, like 20 Bucks Spin was a really great label.
Okay.
They're really fluent in the OSDM revival, old school death metal revival, big time. Profound Lore is the same way, very grindy. Really black and death metal. But the most interesting thing that I wanted to put out there, those two labels, Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast, were tied for 7 entries each.
Okay.
This list contains 17 independent releases.
Holy shit.
So I just want to say this to everybody that might be listening to this that's in the band. You can absolutely get attention and be successful from being independent.
Oh, yeah.
It is a lot of hard work to be done doing it yourself, but it is very fruitful. And some of these independent records made it very, very high in the list. Some of them are in the top 5. I just wanted to throw that interesting fact out
that's
there.
Awesome.
Right.
That's actually a good idea to talk about the labels.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I thought Unique Leader was one of my favorites this year.
Yeah, Unique Leader was up there too. They were short behind with 6.
Yeah.
Yep. Them and the Artisan era. The Artisan era is definitely killing it as far as technical and progressive death metal goes.
Yeah.
And I definitely expect to see a lot more out of them as they continue to grow because they're very, very, very fresh with, bands, the newer age of technical bands like Inferi
Oh, yeah.
is on there. A lot of cool bands. But yeah, I thought that was interesting,
Definitely.
Okay.
Ready to dive in?
No. But
Buckle up.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a I've been
Buckle up.
pretty much ever since the last show, the Fit for an Autopsy show, we were talking about it. I was like, this is gonna be. I'm excited about this.
This is gonna be a handful for sure. Before I start, is there any that you guys are hoping are gonna be on here, like off the top of your head?
Well,
Unless that kind of fucks with your Filthy 15.
No, not at all. Yeah, there is one band that I feel like they're really coming up right now, and it's and I really love the new album, the Convalescence.
The Convalescence?
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved Monument of Misery.
Gotcha.
And
the Ohio Boys.
Yeah, and I hope
and Girl.
more people hear that new album because it is quite good.
Yeah.
Quite good.
I can dig that. That's a Unique Leader release too.
Is it?
I believe so.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, Unique Leader has really grown from being, because they used to be pretty strictly brutal death metal and technical death metal.
Yeah.
Being, owned by Eric Lindemark, R.I.P. from Deeds of Flesh. But yeah, over the recent years, you're seeing more deathcore related stuff on there. Signs of the Swarm is unique leader.
A lot of black and deathcore kind of stuff.
Yep. And as far as technical deathcore goes, Fallujah used to be on Unique Leader for their first couple records.
That's right. Yeah, they were Nuclear Blast, weren't they?
They are now, yes.
Are they? Yeah.
Yep, with Dreamless.
Yeah.
Yep. I will throw out there that while we're on the topic of Fallujah, they did not make the list. I was a little upset about that.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a disappointing.
And the thing is that because I think the big thing is the vocalist. That's what a lot of people talk about when it comes to Fallujah's new record. Because Alex Hoffman is no longer in the band. But actually, it's not so much of the vocalist for me. It's just the whole product is. I don't know. It felt like Dreamless B-sides to me. Like, it's cool. There was definitely, like, Sanctuary was a good track, But as a whole, I don't know. It didn't wow me like I was used to with Fallujah, because they used to be one of my all-time favorite bands, and those records still are.
Yeah, man.
Some of my all-time favorite records. Scott Carstairs is a monster on the guitar, and I still am of the belief that nobody plays like him. I think he's wonderful. I don't know. The Undying Light just didn't quite strike me.
Yeah, well, it kind of had a different feel to it. Like the others were way more like bigger and like atmospheric sounding. I feel like this one was a little more like, I don't want to say like metalcore sounding, but it was a little lighter in that sense.
I agree, and I think the vocalist does contribute to that metalcore sense too.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I listened to him, he definitely reminded me more of somebody like Mike Ronica from The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
It's just more shouty, rather than guttural. And I don't know. It's grown on me a little bit more, but who knows? Okay, so
here we go.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. All right. Number 100, and this one, because I'm probably not gonna spend a lot of time talking about these early entries. But this one is definitely a bit of a conundrum and has some more controversy around it than others. Number 100 is Batushka with Huspody. Now, Batushka, are you familiar?
I am not.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one. Huspody by Batushka, released on July 12th, 2019 through Metal Blade Records. And yeah, this is probably going to be the most controversial entry on the year because it was widely hated. Absolutely widely hated. I think we can agree with that.
I remember hearing about this when it came out, and there was a weird story behind it and everything. So
yeah. To
say the least.
Right. So yeah, Batushka is quite a conundrum of a man for reasons that most people know, but since we're a little fresh here, I'll explain a little bit. Batushka is a black metal band hailing from Poland. Okay. And they came out in 2015, birthed by, these are Polish names, so I'm just going to use the easy names. The guitarist, he goes by Durf.
Okay.
After that, as it was kind of just, like a small project by him, he soon recruited a guy named Bart as the vocalist. Okay. And Bart pushed the band to... They have a lot more of a stage presence now with that, because you watch their live videos. I encourage you to watch early Batushka live videos. You'll see that it's very it's a lot influenced by like Eastern Orthodox liturgies. So there's a lot of really low bellowing choral chants in it. And so much is the same for their debut, which is called Liturgia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It might be Liturgia, but I'm not even going to try. This album, when it came out independently, gained an insane amount of attention. Like, this band went from dropping this record out of nowhere to being one of the top exports of black metal out there. Wow. They blew up, like, in the truest form of the word.
Oh, yeah.
so much that they were picked up by Metal Blade for distribution of that record and more touring. Yeah. So soon after their signing to Metal Blade, the band split up. They didn't, well, I shouldn't say that. They did not break up, but they quite literally split into Durf and Bart had a bit of a argument over, the way the band should go. And essentially what happened, I'm not going to cut corners around it. Bart stole the band.
Okay.
Durf claims that Bart was kicked out, and Bart claims that Durf was kicked out. But with the paperwork, technically Durf was kicked out, even though he did not want to be. But legally, they still have not figured this out. So now there are two Batushkas.
Okay.
There's Bart's Batushka, which is signed to Metal Blade, and there's Durf's Batushka, which is independent.
Okay.
So in a race to... Because obviously what you're probably asking is, who's the real Batushka? Who's the mind behind the band?
Uh-huh.
And the only way to really figure that out is to let the music speak for itself.
Uh-huh.
So simply enough, Spody comes in at 100 because it does not quite represent what we heard on the debut album.
Okay.
Which is so phenomenally praised, not just by me, but so many.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a much cleaner production that, for better or worse, debatable, who knows. But, you still have the religious chants in the record, but musically, it's way more boring. Like, I mean, for a band that was already this slow paced, it's a little ridiculous how, I don't know, there's just, the atmosphere is not there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like I'm just, it definitely took me a while to get through it. That being said, I did not find the album to be nearly as bad as the online community presented it to be.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that is fueled because of the dispute that's going on between the two bands.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reasons that people could enjoy this album. I think the thing that it comes down to is that it was mauled by politics and creativity issues, and that really didn't have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If it would have been, I think that this album would have had a better shot being released by another band.
Yeah.
Rather than a fake incarnation of what
What
of what Batushka is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it a good record? If it was made by a better band, I think people would have received it better. But is it a proper follow-up to one of the most unique black metal records of the decade? Absolutely fucking not.
But it still makes your list at number 100.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that there are still a couple of moments that are really unique about the record. There's some industrial metal influence on here that wasn't present on Liturgia. Mm-hmm. Mostly in the track Utrania. I think that that's definitely the centerpiece of the record, and it stands way taller than the rest of it. I think that there are certainly a couple of moments that really make it, make the ears perk up.
Hell yeah.
And I think that I probably would have, maybe found more to latch onto if I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes.
Fair
I think,
enough.
And it just goes to prove that, stuff outside of the music really can influence how you view music.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you see that a lot of times with bands that split up, and they either like, at least like history wise, like, having like one split up and then either the original vocalist from the one band is still doing something, or like, kind of switches around, and
Queensryche, absolutely. That record that that Queensryche put out.
Even when they tour, there's
Tour.
Queensryche and Geoff Tate's Queensryche.
Yeah. Yeah, like, it's just, I don't know. They both definitely hurt after that. And that's the same case with Batushka too.
Yeah.
It's the same case with Batushka too. So yeah,
number 100.
Number 100 Batushka. Fake Batushka, I should say. No, I really feel I really feel strongly about that. I think what Bart did was shit. And yeah, so I mean, just stream the record. Don't buy it. Don't support that guy. Seriously. Okay. Number 99. Let's switch it up from the black metal a little bit. Prison with a record called Still Alive was released on October 18th, 2019, and this is an independent release. We're talking about a brand of new metal mixed with deathcore, and I say that, kindly because, I don't feel like people should be scared of new metal at all. I think even though I have a lot of death metal and black metal on this record, I want to make it known that I do appreciate all sects of metal, and this is one of those. I think Prison really released something that has an angry sound with a blatantly positive message, even though it is presented in an angry package. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're talking, we're attacking negative ideals surrounding mental illness and suicide. This band is mostly, I don't want to say centered, because I think that's rude. It's a band. There's many people putting forth effort into making it what it is, but
that cover is wild.
Yeah, it's just like a hospital note.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's pretty good.
So Johnny Crowder, the vocalist of Prison, is ex Dark Sermon. Badass band,
one of my favorite bands.
Dark Sermon, yeah,
I know that.
yeah. If you guys feel like checking out some older stuff, not entirely older, but The Oracle by Dark Sermon is one of the most underrated death metal records ever.
It just like unreal. To me, it just kind of came out at around a time where like there wasn't really a whole lot of that like darker kind of more ambient stuff.
I agree.
And
I think it was focused around deathcore a lot at the time. There wasn't a lot of that stuff out. You're right.
Mostly, yeah, and just with a lot of like the whole concept of it and stuff, and but yeah, and then because I think by the time that like Dark Sermon was ending and then Prison came into the fold, like it was a weird like left turn almost.
Oh, absolutely. The two bands are nothing alike.
Yeah, that's. I think that kind of shocked me a little bit because I was kind of expecting a little bit more like the same sort of thing, and like especially from hearing like early demos and stuff. It was a lot more like not what it is now, I guess. Even so, like stuff on the new album isn't really quite the same.
Right.
And so it took me a little while to kind of appreciate it and stuff. But yeah, the new one is definitely, it's got a lot of moments in it where it's, like real like jarring kind of stuff, like sounds in the background and like, different effects and things. It has a real live sound to it, I think. So
yeah, and I think that's the one you brought up a good point there. I think that's the one thing that really landed its place in my list was the fact that it does provide that atmosphere that works so perfectly with the lyrical content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really does make you feel like you're inside of your own head, and it's awesome.
Hell yeah.
My thing, the reason why it's at 99 and not higher is because the instruments do what they need to do to emphasize what the message is claiming, although I would have liked to see more unique things done with the instruments themselves. Okay. And I think that kind of comes with the territory of this brand of new metal deathcore, especially the new movement, I think this is more similar to instrumentally to something like King 810, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's fair.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's a very fun record for its style, included with some very interesting subject matter. Even if the album doesn't do a whole lot in terms of progression as a whole, not every album has to, in order to obtain quality.
Yeah.
And I think, lastly, it's something to where it gets me interested in seeing what these guys can do in the future,
Yeah.
Very young band, so I'm interested.
And they're all completely self-sustaining.
Yes.
And independent.
And I believe they plan on continuing to do that too.
Nice.
I think.
Bandcamp boys.
Bandcamp boys. All right. Let's dig into some death metal real quick. And I'm gonna special shout out to Nathan Barnes from Throne because I know he's gonna fucking slap me in the face for putting this so low. But number 98 is Witch Vomit with Buried Deep in a Bottomless Grave.
Ooh.
Yes, that's a
Vomit.
That's a harrowing title, isn't it? And I gotta tell you. And I think that's part of why this album is a little lower because man, that title is so badass. It's so gory.
Yeah, that
Witch
artwork too.
vomit. Yeah, it's very harrowing, you know. But this is one of those albums that I feel like a lot of my death metal community really hyped up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really see it, you know. Like it's great, don't get me wrong, you know. These Portland, Oregon guys, you know, they just pummel into the new wave of OSDM revival, you know, with this record containing the signature $20 spin sound that, you know, the label has made themselves known for. Yeah, they don't let up at all on the filthy guitar tone sitting on top of these numerous blast beats and worm-infested growls, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for that disgusting death metal sound, then this record's perfect, you know. And it's what I love too. My thing is, you know, while it's another good addition for anyone interested in the tsunami of OSDM style bands that have taken over the genre these last few years, I can't say it really stands up too well against the classics that we've already found. You know, like even in the recent years, like Star Spawn by Blood Incantation is 100% a classic. Manner of Infinite Forms by Tombworld, 100% a classic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even some records that have come out this year are going to be absolute classics, you know. I think that this album does a good job at what it does, which is being gross. but I can't exactly say that I haven't heard this stuff before. So for originality's sake, I put it at 98.
Fair enough.
That's a lot of times when I hear that style, like it has to be like a specific sound to it. Otherwise it like not to like take anything away from that style, but after a while it kind of like blends together a little for me.
I agree. And yeah, definitely you'll find that on this record too. It's you know, I mean, unless like if you're absolutely great, like I said, Nathan Barnes, you know, loves this kind of stuff, so it's perfect for somebody like him.
Yeah.
And that obviously that's not negative. I would hope that he would not take it that way. You know, I'm just saying, I'm just using him as an example. So it's absolutely perfect for that. I just listen to such a wide variety of music that I don't know, you know, it's got to be really special for me to bring it up that way, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, this is just it's simply a fun record for that style. Okay.
Great cover too.
It's always cool.
Yeah,
Really nice
very
cover art.
cool artwork, man. Very cool.
Looks like they've got a couple of them out that have. Looks like the artwork's been by kind of a similar artist.
Yep.
So
Don't you just love it when the album artwork matches what this like either what the lyrical content or the song title's about?
Yeah.
It's like just perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely big props for them on that one.
because then it like paints that image in your head of like when you're listening to it, like that's
exactly
you're somewhere within that. Like,
exactly. Exactly. Like the first time you listen to Anthropocene Extinction,
Yeah.
Cattle Decapitation,
yeah,
you feel that ocean blue,
yeah,
like in all of the garbage that's littered around. It really seeps into that record.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, that's a great album cover too. And a great album. Okay, so why don't we turn our attention to some Michigan boys now?
Oh shit!
Number 97 is a band from Kalamazoo that I absolutely have the most difficult time defining in genre. It's very difficult. Drink Their Blood comes out with Face of Opprobrium, released on May 2010 or May 10th, 2019, independently. Yeah, dude, these guys are hard to describe, man. And that's the best part about them.
Hell yeah!
Is that you really don't know what you're going to expect, you know, for any, you know, and anyone familiar with the band will probably say the same, you know.
Yeah.
If I had to say anything, if there was a gun against my head, I would probably call them like technical metal / hardcore, maybe.
Okay.
Because they definitely have those influences in there. The thing is that it's just not blatant.
Okay.
You know, there's so many different styles in there. I mean, this band has a fucking saxophone.
Yeah.
And he plays, like, the singer plays it live, and he plays it well.
That's crazy.
You know,
yeah. Their tags are experimental metal saxophone, beastcore, experimental. Like,
Yeah. So not really defined.
Yeah.
Right, like an experimental avant-garde style.
Beastcore?
Beastcore.
what it says, yeah.
What is beastcore?
Yeah, man, that's just their thing. I never heard it anywhere else, and I love that they call themselves that. It's fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beastcore.
I'll say I've never actually listened to them, but I know that they've had a lot of shows in the area, and I know that they've played. I think they were at Metal Fest either.
Yeah.
I don't know, a few years ago and stuff. So I definitely heard of them.
Yeah, you guys ever get the chance to check them out, you got to do it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful people, every single
yeah.
one of them. And it's just, yeah. I mean, you'll at least walk away from the stage saying, "What the fuck did I just watch?"
Yeah.
You know.
Sometimes that's cool, like that surprise element to it.
Right.
So.
But yeah, as far as the music goes, I think blatantly is death metal riffs and hardcore, but not so blatantly. You're talking about, the saxophone passages, so you get a hint of jazz in there. And you even get some metalcore moments and some straight groove metal in there too. This is a band that's playing what they want to play, and they don't. It's just it's so hard to pigeonhole these guys. It's so hard to describe them, and I'm sorry if I'm fucking up on it if they're listening, but they really are a special band. The only reason why I have it lower on the list is because I think that their production value could have been a little better on the record. It's a little it's certainly not nearly as bad as a lot of the things I've listened to in the past. I don't want to make it sound like that, but for a band has so much going on, I think a couple of things are lost in the aura because of the production, but this is certainly a band that has produced a couple of really classic songs in my book, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. I think it's a cool record for these guys.
Nice.
All right. You
96?
96.
96. Here we go.
96. Some melodic black and death metal. And Rotting Christ.
Oh shit. That's a big one.
I showed Burton these guys.
love it.
I showed Burton these guys,
Yep.
and he has been loving on not only the Heretics, which is 2019's representation of Rotting Christ,
Yep.
but I'm sure you've dug into a bit of their older stuff as well.
Oh yeah, I'm not that deep into it yet, but yeah, I am. I have dug back a couple albums, I think, already.
Okay. So since the Heretics was your first introduction to the band, how do you feel overall about what's your favorite so far? Is it still the Heretics?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, fantastic. Like, it's a gothic form of black metal. You know what I mean? There's a lot of gothic influences in the Heretics. Which is so surprising for me. I mean, not necessarily because this shares similarities with their last couple of records, but because these guys have been doing this since the 80s.
Yeah.
This is an old band.
Yeah.
Especially for in this genre department.
Yeah.
Like, it's really crazy. I didn't initially know how old they were.
I didn't know that either. I knew they were old from back in the day. I didn't know how far back. I didn't realize they
we're
were
talking
that
like
old.
1987.
Yeah, that's insane.
And this band started
insane.
out as grindcore mostly. This is a band that started out as grindcore, but once they really shot into the straight black metal, that's where they got their fame.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that while this album does a great job at being experimental and provides, that atmosphere of darkness, bleakness, and, it's really epic, for what it is. In my opinion, knowing what the band has done in the previous, it doesn't quite match up to those early classics.
Fair.
But it does offer some palatable tunes to listen to. I think the main downfall, and it's really not even a downfall, if you're looking for something where you can just put on a track or two and dig into it, this probably isn't the record for you. This is an album where you really just got to listen to all of it to get the full presentation.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing when bands aim for that, but
it's really a lost art.
I agree.
As putting a record together.
I agree. But I also do like when bands do that, but also have individual palpability with their songs. And I don't know, I just have a hard time listening to just select songs with this record. It's something that I have to take it as a whole.
Fair.
And being a really long record,
It is.
it's
It is pretty long.
So yeah, if you're listening, if you're looking to listen to some doom-laden black metal, this album could definitely be up your alley.
What's the ending track on that one?
The ending track on this
Isn't it the
song,
Raven?
Is the Raven.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think of that?
Which is one of my highlighted tracks actually, which is really
That's
cool.
So crazy
because like the two tracks that I have highlighted here is the Raven and Heaven and Hell and Fire.
Such a good one.
Yes, absolutely
really
fantastic moments in the album. In their later songs.
Yeah,
the Raven being the closer,
deeper
obviously.
cuts. Yeah.
They're the deeper cuts of the record, and I think I tend to appreciate those more in this album because I think the beginning of the record kind of takes a bit of time establishing itself, which is fine, I think just once, especially when Heaven and Hell and Fire kicks in, it's like, okay, this is what this album's about.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? This is really portraying it. And then the Raven takes everything and just culminates it into one.
Yeah.
It's like,
this
is what you listen to. And it just kind of walks you off and says, all right, have a good day.
It really seems like low-hanging fruit, but like they're the first band I know of that's done anything like that with that Edgar Allan Poe Raven. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
Like it seems like something a lot of metal bands would have done something with, but this is the first. I like when I saw that pop up, the video or the lyric video for it or whatever. I was like, no shit, they did that. Wow.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
There's a few. The Black Dahlia Murder actually has a song called The Raven. It's on The Ritual. Ritual, not The Ritual, but yeah, fantastic song. That's one of my favorite records of all time. I know you were talking to me about album of the decade.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, Ritual would be up there for sure.
Yeah.
I love that record. I would make love to that record.
I didn't even realize or think about that came out this decade as well.
Yeah, 2011, but isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I remember when I was still in high school listening to that record. Yeah. That was Deflorate was the album that was out when I found them. But I didn't really start getting into them heavily until Ritual came out. Because I kind of like heard a song or two and I was like, this is all right. But when Ritual came out, goddamn.
That was over.
Okay. Okay. Number 95. This is the most disgusting, I don't mean like disgusting as in brutal, disgusting as in heavy. I mean like literally the grossest album that has probably made my list, and that's Pissgrave. Pissgrave with the album called Posthumous Humiliation. Now, I do not look at this album artwork with discretion because it's gross.
Oh boy.
For a preface, their first album, Suicide Euphoria, was real shit. This is a real death on the album cover. Not like Symphonies of Sickness by Carcass, where it's dead bodies, kind of like.
What about Wake Up and Smell the Carcass?
Yeah, no, this is.
You know that cover?
Yeah, okay. This is a very brutal and real, defaced face. So
can't find it.
Needless to say, when I do the online stuff, I'm not posting that cover because I'll probably get in some trouble for it. Fucking Zuckerberg. So Pissgrave. Posthumous Humiliation came out on March 1st, 2019 through Profound Lore.
Oh shit, I found it. Oh
yeah,
god.
That's gross, isn't it?
That is.
Did you find it, Aaron?
Bandcamp.
You want to show him?
Yeah.
You found it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I can't say it's the grossest thing I've ever seen, but it's, as far as album covers go, that's pretty blatant.
Yeah, that's fucking mayhem level. Fucking Wake Up and Smell. You know the Wake Up and Smell the Carcass cover?
Yeah,
that's one of the craziest. That was one of the first death metal albums I ever listened to, and my uncle showed me that cover, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, they literally have a dead body on the cover, and it's the president.
Yeah.
That
it's
was
fucking
insane.
nuts. So yeah, this band, you press play and it's a wall of static and disgusting filth.
That's honestly like that's
Wall of sound.
As I'm looking at that, that's about what I picture. Or I imagine.
Yeah. It's gross, man. There's not a lot to say about this one, honestly. What you see is what you get. All packaged in an album cover, too disgusting to display.
Real.
It's raw death metal that's totally overdrive. The whole time it's filthy, it's disgusting. I really can't describe it with words very well
Other than those ones.
Because I think anybody listening to this is gonna be like, oh, it's raw and disgusting death metal, and they're gonna press play and it's gonna be like, what the fuck is this? So if you're looking, if you're that kind of dude that really enjoys the like most obscene metal, then this is probably going to be really high in your list, to be honest. The thing is that it's that the whole goddamn time. And they definitely achieved what they set out to do. I can't blame them for that. Can't knock them for that. I will never knock a band for their musical credibility. What they want to do. You know what I mean?
Okay, absolutely.
But
that's a 43-minute record.
This
too.
is a 43-minute record.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
and it just never relents.
Right. For most bands, that's kind of average. I think 40. Anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes is an average record, but this is like very grindcore influence. So you're not expecting like 3 to 6 minute songs.
That was what I was gonna get at. Was when I first saw that, I was like, oh, well, you've seen like similar art kind of to that, like that style and stuff, and I immediately go to like 20-minute record, like 16 songs with like a minute and a half each.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think I would have liked this record a lot more if it was that. If they really cut the fat on it. But I think that's why it's so high in my list, is because, or so low in my list, I should say, because it's hard to pay attention to for a long time, for somebody that's really into that style of metal. Absolutely. But I really included this at number 95 because it is so what the fuck. And I appreciate that aspect enough to be like, this band achieved this kind of sound. While it may not be necessarily something that I will listen to a lot, I think it's still cool that a band can really be that filthy and get away with it. You know?
Yeah.
So that's Pissgrave, Posthumous Humiliation.
I wish we could play like little bits of it just to kind of get
I thought about bringing my little boombox to kind of like play stuff in the background, but forgot.
Wait, well, it's the Wild West in terms of what you can post and everything now, so
right,
you never know.
That's true.
So.
You start posting stuff on here and somebody gets after you. I get that. Just know I love you, all you bands. I'm not trying to get your money.
It's a lot of love.
Yeah. So that's 5 entries down. How do you guys feel?
Feeling good.
Okay, cool. This is gonna be a while, but it'll be fun. I promise.
Oh yeah.
All right, number 94. This is the first record on the list from the Artisan era, which I previously spoke about. Very technical, progressive stuff. This is from a band called Singularity. Released a record this year called Place of Chains on October 11, 2019. So I found Singularity in 2014 when they dropped their self-titled official debut, and it is one of my favorite albums of that genre, of the technical progressive stuff, symphonic even. It's one of my favorites, and I guess I should preface this with the fact that I think that technical death metal has taken a weird turn in the last few years to where it's really there's not a lot of stuff going on that's unique anymore, is there? And I think if you're really interested in that, because I know there are a fuck ton of tech death geeks out there and I mean that generously. I don't, I think it's cool to be so faithful to one specific genre, My thing is that I think that over the years, the way that technical death metal has evolved, I prefer my bands to either be, they gotta have substance. They gotta have a lot of substance, and I think where a lot of technical death metal bands fall is the fact that it's flashy. It's overtly flashy, and they forget how to really, sink into the riff.
Yeah.
I think they forget how to write, fluid songs. It's just a lot of it's a lot of flashy shit,
That's fair.
And I think that's where Place of Chains has a little bit of trouble, is the fact that whereas to the self-titled debut that they released does have fantastically written songs. They all stand on their own so well. I listen to Place of Chains, and while there are a few moments in there, like the opener, Victory or Death, is very catchy. And, the keyboards that are utilized in As Dark as This Nefarious Night, I think there's some highlights there, but I really felt like a lot of it blended together. However, it displays extreme fluency in their technical prowess, and that much should be applauded. Combining it with keyboard and compositions that are really infectious, and I think are really the saving grace of Place of Chains. I think that this retains a lot of those qualities that made me fall in love with Singularity so much, but kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really. It's hard to describe without sounding mean, because I don't want to sound mean ever. This is just my opinion. I think that for any self-respecting technical death metal fan, that this is ideally a great record to listen to. But if you're looking for stuff that has that, that classic feel, like Incurso, Spawn of Possession, Epitaph, Necrophagist, anywhere from Deeds of Flesh to Decrepit Birth to, even the original tech metal days of like Suffocation, because they were definitely doing a lot of technical death metal, even though it was very heavy in the brutal death metal sect too. I don't think that this record's going to quite tickle that fancy, but I got to give it the props to give it a number 94 because it's so interesting to listen to the fact that these guys really know how to play their instruments. I just feel like on the next one, when they come back around, I'd really like to see them get back to like that epic atmosphere of the songwriting,
Hell yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a fair point as far as like a lot of the progressive kind of stuff is that it's a lot of, as far as like the instrumentation of it, it's really interesting. It's really intricate, but at the same time, I feel like kind of what you're saying, like a lot of the song gets lost in that that really busy, like, everything going at 100 miles an hour at the same time.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Especially when, you got albums that are like an hour long and, it's a lot to take in during sometimes. And so
I think digestibility is definitely an important factor of a great record,
It's in tight.
Oh! Okay. So yeah, Singularity, Place of Chains. If you enjoy technical or progressive death metal, give it a bump. You probably like it.
Let's check that one out.
All right, 93. Orphalis.
Ooh.
Orphalis put out a record this year called The Approaching Darkness on June 7th, 2019. I probably don't need to keep including the 2019 part.
That's probably true.
Self-explanatory. Through an underground label called Rising Nemesis Records. When I put this on for the first time, I definitely thought of bands like Origin, Aborted, Deeds of Flesh, stuff like that. Very, technical in the sense of brutal death metal.
Yeah.
It's just, they really know how to lay thick on those, those low strings, but they're still it's still blistering speed. It's very chunky. And I think that's the big focus of The Approaching Darkness is that hefty guitar tone. I just adore how they cut right through and stay right in your face the whole time, but they don't do it in such a way like how I mentioned Pissgrave was the whole, just wall of static the whole time,
Yeah.
This is more of a band that has a bit more variation
Okay.
throughout the record, even though it still is brutal death metal the entire time. Not only that, but the vocalist, really does a fine job at knowing exactly how to complement what's going on in the instruments at all times.
Nice.
That being said, again, I think that the writing department could have been a little bit higher with this one. There's quality riffs, no doubt. Don't get me wrong in there. I just find the band showing their influences a tad strong.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, Deeds of Flesh, Origin, Aborted.
Mm-hmm.
There's some of these parts that could have been easily out of a Deeds of Flesh record.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes that's cool, when certain bands do it. Like when I can say, oh, that really reminds me of this and that. But I don't know. It's just a little strong on the sleeve, However, I digress. Not everything needs to be revolutionary to be good,
Yeah.
Certainly doesn't stop something from being worthy of a good listen, this album included. So, if you're looking for something extreme in that sense of technical brutal death metal, I think that the Approaching Darkness absolutely pounds, and I think this is a cool record from a band that really probably not a lot of people will know about,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Is that an independent release?
That is from an underground record called Rising Nemesis.
Oh, okay.
Never heard of the label. This is my introduction to that label.
Nice.
Been looking at the cover art and stuff, and there's something about seeing something like that and not really being sure like what you're gonna listen to.
Yeah, and again with the artwork that fits the title very well.
I don't know exactly what that should sound like. Sounds like we're going to Mordor, motherfucker.
Right.
Some Lord of the Rings shit. That's awesome.
Right. Hell yeah. So yeah, cool record, especially for somebody that really likes the death grind stuff like that. Man, Aborted is one of my favorite bands. Those guys are gentlemen. Absolute gentlemen.
Belgian.
Right, those
Death.
Belgian motherfuckers. I think these guys. I don't quote me on it, but I think Orphalis is also Belgian. Maybe German. I know they're from that area.
Okay.
But yeah, cool record for sure. At the very least, you listen to it and headbang a whole shit ton, and maybe you pick it up again, maybe you don't.
That's all it takes sometimes.
Right. Okay, so all right, number 92. Let me ask you a question before I really start getting into this. How do you guys feel about supergroups?
I think they can be awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I used to fucking, sit around like if I were to put together a band, I could pick anyone who would it be. You know what I mean? Like so I think they can be sweet.
Right.
It depends for me a lot of times, like if it's something that makes sense, or if it's like from bands that have split up and then kind of like form this other project that's kind of like something either completely different or kind of like a combination of the sounds from everybody. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But other times it can be kind of like why, I guess.
I agree with that.
So.
I think the worst part about because I don't know, supergroups are a bit of an anomaly to me because like the idea of the supergroup is always awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just sticking a bunch of badass motherfuckers in a room.
Yeah.
And it's just it comes out. But I think when I was writing this particular review, I had a little bit of reflection and realized there's really hardly any memorable supergroups. I think there are few, but like blatant supergroups, like Killer Be Killed is awesome. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but that's Troy Sanders from Mastodon with Greg Puciato, Dillinger Escape Plan.
Okay.
Max Cavalera from Sepultura and Soulfly.
Mm-hmm.
And well, on that first record, it was I can't remember the gentleman's name, but the dude from the Mars Volta, which kind of, but now it's Ben Collar from Converge, and yeah, so they're really awesome. But other than that, like I have a hard time thinking of anybody.
When I think
the fuck is it?
When I think super group, a lot of times I think of like an album of like musicians collaborating on something rather than like a touring group.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, Audio Slave.
Audio Slave is pretty cool.
They're
yeah.
a super group.
I mean,
I guess I never
yeah.
thought about them that way, but
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're mostly Rage Against the Machine, and then you
Stick Chris
add.
Cornell in there.
Yeah.
that's true.
And I'm such a sucker for Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. He's the best rock singer of all time to me. I don't care what anybody says. I know I'm
Damn.
not, I know I may not be agreed with there, but nobody had more passion than him. I love Soundgarden. I love Temple of the Dog. I love Audio Slave. Anything that he's ever done, even his solo work, I think that he was the best. And yeah, I don't really cry when I see the death of a person. You know what I mean? I definitely cried when Chris Cornell passed away
That one got,
in Detroit.
in Detroit. Yep.
Mhm.
In Detroit, isn't that crazy?
Actually, yeah, it's fucking insane.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, my point of bringing that up is that, I personally have a hard time really recollecting any really good super groups. But on the other hand, 2019 did provide a pretty cool super group in Voltimas. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to say that an awful lot. Voltimas is combined talent from David Vincent, who is known for Morbid Angel, ex-Morbid Angel.
Okay.
Classics like Altar Madness and Blessed Are the Sick, Domination, Covenant. And then we have Blasphemer on the guitars, who is ex-Mayhem.
Wow.
Yeah. And Flo Monnier, who is the drummer for Cryptopsy.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Just the three of them. And
It's just a 3-piece.
Yeah, and this is pure black and death metal in every
Nice.
sense of the word. So Voltimas dropped Something Wicked Marches in March 29th. Through Season of Mist, and Season of Mist is
They're
absolutely
killing it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Killing it.
label. Like everything that they do is just black and greatness. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets me just going so hard. Yeah, this is, that's just what this is. It's a fantastic showcase of black and death metal. And you can hear the influence of every single member's respective, sound seeping in through.
Nice.
I can't exactly say that this record matches up to any of the members' respective classics.
Mhm. Fair enough.
I think that much is obvious. Dude, it's, not even the bands themselves have matched up to like
Yeah.
Cryptopsy hasn't, has been great, but have they been as good as, like Blasphemy Made Flesh or None So Vile? No.
Right.
Yeah.
No. And is this as good as like any of Mayhem's classics or any Morbid Angels classics? Probably not. But as far as supergroups go, I think that's why I put this on this list at number 92, is because it does stay together super well. I think that the album has fantastic production and really brings out all of the evil that's in there. And it doesn't fail in any circumstance to make sure the listening experience is fun.
I think it really helps that it's a 3-piece in a supergroup situation. You know what I mean?
100%.
I think that because then it's just essentially just 3 guys jamming,
Yeah.
as opposed to like an entire 5 to 6-piece band or 9.
Yeah. I'm looking at you, Slipknot. But yeah, I think that Voltimasa definitely is a memorable supergroup. I think that they definitely did provide something really cool on this record.
I'll check that out.
And,
I love
yeah.
Black and Death.
This is definitely the kind of thing where, like I was saying, it's the idea of a supergroup is really sick to get, just thinking about these fucking awesome dudes.
Yeah.
Getting in a room together
Yeah.
and making something. This is one of the few for me that has actually succeeded.
Hell
So yeah, certainly worth a listen for the stature of the band members alone,
Voltimas?
Yes, would you like me to spell that for
Yeah.
you? That is VLTIMAS.
Okay.
What's your favorite Morbid Angel release?
Nice.
Or just era, I guess.
Okay, so this is a tough one for me.
A little bit. This is a kind of a loaded question because there's a lot to.
Dude, there's so much to Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when death metal was on the rise like that, there was a lot of bands doing the gore, but Morbid Angel was eviler than anybody.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I think I'm gonna go with a couple here. I think that Blessed Are the Sick is one of my favorites because it takes that Altar of Madness sound and just makes it even more evil. Like, that's where they really kind of started to pedal out the, like, a bit more down-tempo death metal, you know? Altar of Madness is sick for what it is. Don't get me wrong, it's an all-time classic, but there's just something about Blessed Are the Sick that's just so fucking heavy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the second record I would pick would be Gateways of Annihilation.
Yeah.
That's a Steve Tucker era one that sadly gets looked over a lot by, I wouldn't say Morbid Angel fans themselves, but I mean, like, yeah, like Morbid Angel, like a lot of the classic David Vincent fans really just write that off. That record and Formula's Fatal to the Flesh are both, dude. I mean, is it the best stuff that they've done? Maybe not, but it's certainly the fucking heaviest that they've done. Dude, it's so gross. Oh my god. You just listen to songs on that Gateways record, like fucking, like and on Formulas has Invocation of the Continual One. There's no contest, man.
So I was like Domination.
Domination's very filthy. That's pun intended. It's very slimy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With Where the Slime Live, you know. But like, yeah, that record is definitely gross. But at the same time, I felt like that was kind of where they started to like falter a little bit. You know, like it kind of got a little confused.
Yeah.
But there's some gems on that record for sure.
I think it was the production on it that kind of gave me a hard time for a little bit because it's very like muddy sounding.
Yeah, it's
kind
very
of
muddy.
I guess
I think once you start to appreciate that, though, that's really where the strength of the record comes through.
That's
you know
true.
What I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of like rawness to it, and I think that's what's cool about a lot of like the early death metal stuff is just that like you can hear all of the, you know, the instruments being played and everything, and there's just this giant like, natural sound that happens with it. That's cool.
Right. So. All right. So we're gonna have to start pedaling through this a little bit.
Well, hey, if you wanna pause it real quick, I got a question. I was thinking, or I guess whatever, doesn't matter.
You want me to?
I don't care.
All right.
Just so I'm thinking.
Take a quick break.
All right.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, 1 second. All right.
So, yeah. 91.
91.
All right. This might be a little upsetting. And I think out of any album, I'm going to get the most shit for this one.
Really?
Yeah.
For just being it low on the list?
Bar none, because I know for a fact that this is high on a lot of people's lists.
Okay.
Number 91. I'm trembling. Okay. Again, my opinion. Sorry if that upsets you. You can stop listening right now. Don't do that. 91 is Infant Annihilator with the Battle of Yaldabaoth. Yeah, I can see Aaron has a little disappointed face there.
Go on.
You want to talk about it a little bit? How do you?
I want to hear your thoughts on it because I have some issues with it, but I also have a lot of stuff I really liked on it. So
yes, so
I'm curious.
Yeah, Infant Annihilator, internet band, for the most part, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't play their instruments on the record. You know, it's all manufactured.
Really?
Going into listening to this band, that's a very important thing to remember.
Yes. And especially amongst, I think, the controversy that's going on right now about guitars, or people speeding up their guitars and faking it, you know, not being honest about that kind of thing.
I don't like that.
But I think Infant Annihilator really gets away with it in stunning fashion because they are so honest about it. They are like...
Yeah, if you're up front, you're like, this is what it is.
Yeah. They're like,
then all right.
They're like, can we play some of this stuff? Sure. You know, they have playthroughs of, like, Cunt Crusher is a big one.
Yeah.
So they don't play live?
They do not play live. No.
They're the vocalist. Well, one of the vocalists. It's Scumfuck, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Dickie Allen is the current vocalist of Infant
Oh,
Annihilator.
homeboy Scumfuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They were with they played a tour with Vulvodynia this year.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Yeah,
and who else was on that?
Wasn't it
Vulvodynia
Ingested?
and then nope, because Vulvodynia headlined with Scumfuck and I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah. So they don't play their instruments, and I think they get away with that because they're honest with it. You know, they're like, we do this for musical creativity purposes. We want to produce what we want to hear, what we hear in our heads. And I think that's definitely admirable.
Well, and they've got 2 other albums
Yes,
for this.
they
so
do. Yeah.
It's not like they're a new band that's coming out with doing this sort of thing.
Exactly. The thing with the Battle of Yaldabaoth is that this is, I think, and most people can agree, is while they used to be like totally ignorant deathcore before, technical deathcore, I should say, very technical music, we're now seeing a more technical death metal side of it. The deathcore is a bit stripped away, although when it does come in, it's very blatant. I think those breakdowns are still definitely really putrid and heavy. The reason why Infinite Annihilator comes so low on my list this time is because I really enjoyed that ignorant factor about the band. I think that's what made them so special, is the fact that you just listen to it and the whole time you're making that face, just
Yeah.
the stank face,
That's exactly like perfect example of of that style.
Yeah, and while I can really appreciate their maturity in the Battle of Yaldabaoth, I think that what we're seeing here is that these songs don't necessarily have a very clear direction. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on that doesn't necessarily mesh together well. And yeah, like I said, the beauty of their first 2 records is that they were all ignorant all the time. And it was just like that kind of thing where you're like, because for me, if I'm getting into this silly shit, it's got to be 100. It's got to be 100 miles an hour, not necessarily in speed, but like they're pressing down that pedal all the way. And that's what Infinite Annihilator did, It was just like, let's just be fucking ignorantly stupid about this, you know what I mean? And it worked. I loved it. Those first 2 records are amazing. I absolutely loved it.
The second, the Egg, I don't know. I'm not even gonna try
absolutely. The Elysian Grandival Galleria.
Yeah, that one, dude. There's still points of it where like there's select songs and like certain things I go to where I'm like, I need to hear just something just gnarly right now.
Yeah.
Like just fast and just like,
Yeah, there's good reason why people are like, there's nothing so ignorant compared to Infinite Annihilator. I think that the points in which, and even now, with this technical death metal in there, and it's kind of losing its direction, I think that when it does bring forth that ignorance, it doesn't hit as hard because of the lack of build-up towards those massive moments. That being said, the songs that do meet the mark are some of their best in their entire catalog easily. I think that, I'm not even going to try and say the whole thing, but The Kingdom Sitteth, the song with Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And Impusa, Queen of the Damned. I think those songs and the title track, really, I think those 3 songs really net the sound that they were aiming for on this record that the other songs did not achieve. In summary, this is still a great record at the end of the day, but I feel the band has lost a lot of what made them special in the first place. Yeah. I'd love them to find the proper balance that they found in the highlighted tracks.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I listened to a band that, I don't know, it seemed a little aimless, I guess.
Fair enough.
That was, I think, because firstly, I think the first half of the album is way better than the second half. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of one of the big things that kind of disappointed me about it, was that like the top part of it was so strong, and then like towards the end of it, it just doesn't really do much for me.
Gotcha.
Like it's just, I don't know. Like I didn't really feel like the songs were as good.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, Child Chewer is definitely a strong opener.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few of them that are like, and just the use of the groove Like there's a lot
Yeah.
more groove stuff going on, which is really cool. And I feel like that's something that, like, in, you know, kind of once you get into like the really fast stuff and the really like technical stuff, it kind of like you kind of lose that groove element in some ways. Like at least to me. And so when you can have a band that's so fast and that's so like just adds a bunch of stuff in and it's just over the top, but you can keep that groove and that thing that you can really connect with, it's, you know, it just adds even more to their sound. So
and closing it out, Dickie Allen is still a fucking monster.
oh,
There's no contest about it. I don't think there's anybody that does what he does better.
The way, like, I mean, at one point everybody was doing that, like, his style, you know, even still now, like, there's, you know, and I feel like this one, as far as like his, you know, progression and stuff, I feel like there's a lot to be said about the vocals in this, not just for this band, but I feel like for the album.
Yeah,
that was one of the stronger points. I felt like I was like,
it's nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy though? You know, especially in deathcore, you see all these movements of people they just try to sound like the fucking hottest shit. And I think, you know, you look back at like when Phil Bozeman came on the scene first, everybody was trying to be Phil Bozeman. And then fucking
Mitch.
John Huber came out, and everybody was trying to be John Huber, and Ben Dewar, especially from Shadow of Intent, came out, and that, you know, and Dickie Allen is one of those people. I think he really brought, you know, a lot of people trying to go low, and he brought that snarl into it that really changed the game.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely cool shit. All right, let's pedal along here. Number 90, let's get into some thrash metal a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, some fun stuff. This is a Canadian band, very underground, and they're called Deatherus.
Ooh, I like that name.
Deatherus released Hack to Death on August 16th. And yeah, fucking thrash, man. To be honest, this year was kind of dry for thrash on my radar.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Wasn't really so much.
But one band that definitely made it on my list was Deatherus, man. You know, Hack to Death is debut album from these guys.
Nice.
It's visceral. It's absolutely visceral, but it's seasoned with some old-fashioned death metal in there, especially noted in tracks like, you know, the title track and, you know, Smoldering Ashes is definitely in there, and Ridden, too. It has a very primal aura that most thrash debuts tend to have, and I absolutely love that, you know. Like,
fuck yeah.
Like, you can tell for example, you can tell the difference of, like, albums like Kill 'Em All, Show No Mercy, you know, Killing Is My Business compared to stuff like Rust in Peace and Rain and Blood and Master of Puppets.
100%.
I think that this definitely has that stability too. You know, I think it provides clear emotion that a lot of bands tend to miss out on the process of the new age of recording, you know, is the fact that it's so raw. And, you know, it's really exposed. So big props to that band for achieving that sound that stands up so well to the forefathers of thrash.
Fuck yeah.
I'm definitely interested in seeing what Deatherus does in the future. I think they're just getting started, and it's a great starter record for anyone of old school metal fashion that should easily enjoy this.
Hell yeah. I'll check that out.
Looking at the cover, I feel like I'm about to listen to some like some stuff with like some death metal elements, but a little more like thrashy.
Oh yeah, those death metal elements are clear, and I think that's what makes the record really cool. You know, if it was just straight thrash, it might have lost a little bit of its edge that it does have because of that death metal. But it's not like fucking overly gross death metal. It's classic death metal. It's definitely a cool record for, you know, a band just starting out in this new age like that.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, let's throw it back to another Michigan band. Number 89, Cavalcade, released Sonic Euthanasia this year, May 3rd. And again, this is another band that really pushes all audio boundaries. You know, it's really hard to pigeonhole what their exact genre is, but I'd say it's fair to consider them a good crossover of sludge and psychedelic metal.
Okay.
Definitely gives that, you know, vibe off, and it definitely demands your attention every last ounce of that album, you know. It's just done in a way that I haven't really heard in other bands, you know, and I say that unbiased. I think that a lot of people can listen to Cavalcade live and in studio and be like, this is really unlike a lot of things that I've heard. You know, it's out there. I can't say anything less than that. This is a hard record to describe, you know.
Yeah.
It's got that southern United States sludge brand that we see in bands, like a little bit of like corrosion of conformity, and you know, like there's a bit of acid bath in there too.
I was gonna say with the artwork and stuff, I'm kind of seeing like it's kind of giving me that vibe. That, you know.
Yeah.
That, like sludgy kind of.
And I think, you know, because I mentioned with Orphalis that they wore their influences on their sleeve a little strong. I think here Cavalcade does the same, but it works more.
Okay.
Because there's so many different things going on. I can hear the bands that they love in their music presented in a way that's unique for Cavalcade. So I think, you know, it's a really intriguing record that I'd recommend for someone who's willing to have an open mind towards hearing something different. For the normal music listener, probably not.
Might be a little.
But that's not a bad thing. I think Cavalcade really aims to achieve that singularity, you know, that. Yeah, I think it's a cool record.
They're don't they play shows around here all the time?
They do.
Like.
They are mostly based out of Lansing, and it is there's a couple of people, most notably Sean Peters, who used to sing for Summon, which was my drummer's old band.
Yeah.
And made a lot of waves in the original black metal scene of the United States. Yeah, cool band for sure.
Oh yeah.
Really interesting. Okay, number 88, another independent release through another Canadian band called Coma. That is K-O-M-A. Gotta give a proper shout out to my boy Tyler Campfield, TJ. He showed me this, and I have, like, it seems like nobody's really picked up on this record. But it's sick. Aaron left. Yeah, Coma is definitely a band in the doom sludge metal area.
Okay.
It's dark. It's like graveyard. Like, I mean, especially when you look at the album artwork, it's, you know, like it makes you feel like you're in like a dark graveyard. The record's called Through Blackened Veils.
Okay.
It's gonna be a tough one to find. I promise. Like, the only way that I've been able to listen to it is either through Bandcamp or YouTube. So, but yeah, this is their second record. Band's been around since 2015, and I'm very glad I suggested this band because there really is a true menace contained in this piece of music. The doom is really heavy there, and they even managed to throw in some surprise twists with like whispering ambience, you know, slightly reminiscent of like Celtic Frost a little bit, which is a little surprising. Not so much in the black metal aspect, but just that vibe that they give off, you know.
What was the name of this one?
Coma, K-O-M-A. The album is called Through Blackened Veils. All this together makes for, you know, a really eerie listening experience from the start of the first track to the final notes in the song, and Now You Suffer. That's a closing track. And Now You Suffer. Not a lot else I can speak on the band, as they seem to be fairly unknown, but I can say that it should be satisfying to any proper doom head looking for something more sinister in their life.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very excited to hear them in the future.
You're out of British Columbia.
I believe that's it.
Like
Vancouver.
Canada band.
Yeah.
Seems like there's been a lot of good like prog stuff that's kind of come out.
Okay.
From Canada.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Definitely listen to that in like a dark room.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Some candles.
Yeah. Okay. 87.
87.
87, Visceral Disgorge. Yeah. Yeah. Visceral Disgorge is a slamming brutal death metal band. And they dropped Slithering Evisceration, which is the follow-up to their 2011 critically acclaimed debut. So it's been a long time for these
shit,
guys.
7 years, 8 years?
7 years, yeah. People look back at that Visceral Disgorge record, and they really, I mean, it's really spoken highly of in the underground scene. Like, so to have that kind of build up to this record is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're back, and they've got the long-awaited follow-up. I'll keep it short and sweet here because there's really not a lot to say about Visceral Disgorge if you're not familiar. But it's just, slithering evisceration is everything expected from this band. It's clear as mud, brutal death metal.
Oh, yeah.
Front to back, slaughtering slams, saprogenic vocals, airtight blast beats are all highlighted qualities of this record. And if you liked the first record, Ingesting Putrid, you're gonna like this record too.
Oh, yeah.
There's really not a lot to say about that. It's another solid record from these guys, and I'm glad they're back. We got the pleasure of playing with these guys on the Bloodletting North America tour with Disentomb. They were all lovely, and they absolutely slammed it out. I'm glad that we have this new record. Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll check that out.
Okay, another one that might make a couple of deathcore people upset is at number 86 we have Brand of Sacrifice with God Hand. God Hand was released through Unique Leader Records on July 5th. And
this band is sick, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorites.
Yeah. And to be honest, the more I listen to it lately, the more I find that more I find within this record that interests me, especially because, as I was writing these reviews, I was listening to all of them, peeping it again. And yeah, the more I listen to this record, I kind of feel like it should have had a higher spot in my list, but yet I can't. Dude, it's so much work to reorganize this thing again.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry, But yeah, here we are at number 86 with God Hand by Brand of Sacrifice, and it's a quick 26 minutes of technically influenced deathcore, allowing the listener to experience a strengthened form of subgenre that, I think a lot of bands can only hope to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
It opens extremely strong, man.
Yeah.
Like when you hit play and Divinity is the first track. Easily, like the peak of the record right there. It's setting the bar from the start and weaves through a variance of deathcore flavors throughout the barrage of guitar effects that are on it. And dude, the vocalist.
Yeah, man.
The vocalist is great. Like necessarily do a lot as far as range? No, but man, there's something really cool about a fucking vocalist that is really strong in his one talent. And this dude is that, man. He gets low and it is strong. It's very beastly.
I think it's his highs too that are like real shrieky sounding.
Yeah, very shrieky, man. Yeah, this is the kind of deathcore that is made to absolutely pound live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
fuck it.
Like it pounds on record, don't get me wrong, but live I can only imagine that this band like just levels the floor.
Oh yeah.
I'll say because I heard the 2 singles when they first came out. And I really liked it. I think that the EP they released before, like song wise, I feel like was a little bit stronger to me. And I guess like my only problem was like it was. I feel like the newer one was a little more like a step in like the direction they were trying to go in.
Yeah.
But at the same time I felt like before you even know what happened, it's over, and you're restarting it.
Yeah.
It's like it's one of those that like you start and like I think you hear it 2 or 3 times through before you're kind of like, So it's kind of one of those that like it's a quick one. And,
I agree.
And you can hear it a few times and actually like I feel like you almost take more from it in that sense.
Yeah, see that.
Yeah, I think it's a cool record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
20 minutes is really short.
I agree with you. Yeah, I was about to bring that up too. 26 minutes is really quick, especially for a band like this where it's really fast. And there I think it's like 12 or 13 tracks.
Holy shit.
Maybe not, but I know it surpasses 10 at least.
I think it's just at 10. That's what I got.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the EP before that was 5 songs.
Yeah.
So
And I think that was one of the downfalls, is that it really did leave me wanting more, and not necessarily in the greatest way, you know?
Yeah.
It's just that short. But yeah, I'm just saying that this record is one of the more interesting deathcore records I've heard in a while. They're at least the band's sound. And I think it's more quality than I'm probably leading people to believe, putting it at number 86. So yeah, strong recommendation for me, for sure.
Yeah, because they were on Summer Slaughter this year, I think, weren't they?
Yes.
I feel like either that or one of the other tours, I don't remember. And I feel like you're hearing a lot more about them now than in the past years. So, especially, I mean, I don't know. I think they came out last year or so.
Right.
Between that time and now, I feel like they're picking up a lot of steam.
Hell yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, so let's get back into the black and death metal thing a little bit. I like that. Burton's shaking his head. Oh, yeah, he loves that. Okay. Have you ever heard of a band called Hate?
I don't know.
Okay. So,
I don't think I have.
So, Poland has birthed two really I mean, I'm sure there's more. But as far as the big ones go, Poland birthed Behemoth.
Yeah.
And Behemoth, I think, took a lot of steam out of Hate. You know, when they blew up really fast. Don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoy Behemoth more. Don't get me wrong. But Hate is absolutely solid, and they've stayed absolutely, for the most part, consistent since day one. I think they were a little bit more blackened back in the day, but yeah, you know, they've been around since 1991, and in 2019 dropped Auric Gates of Velis, which came out through Metal Blade on June 14th. And yeah, they've done a fucking damn great job at producing the music that they do, despite sticking to the same path for some time now. I think within the last few records and most notably with the release of Solar Flesh, which came out early in the decade. Such a fantastic record that understandably they stuck to that sound. I think that this album is still quality material, even if they haven't exactly gone too far out of their comfort zone. And I think that's why Hate comes in at 85. Okay. Because instrumentally it's really great, but knowing what the band has done previous, it's kind of like, all right, you know, it's cool, but it's kind of Solar Flesh again. You know, although there are a couple of moments where it really goes into a more aligned, straight black metal sound, like in Sovereign Sanctity, Path to Arkan. Those were definitely welcome change of paces. And I think that, you know, Sovereign Sanctity will be a more live staple in their set from now on. I think that's definitely one of the best songs that they produced in a long time.
Nice.
So, yeah, another solid record for the Hate camp. No worries there. If you're already a fan of the band, you know, this album should be solid, but won't exactly treat you to anything you haven't heard before. But other than that, if you're new to the band, this record is absolutely a superb introduction into them, for sure.
Fuck yeah.
That was what I was going to ask, because they're one of those bands that I've heard of. Like, I definitely, you know, but I've heard songs, but I can't really, like, pick out any of them specifically. So I didn't know if there was, like, a starting point for any of them.
It's tough,
pretty much, man. The new one.
Yeah, so, yeah. I think that this is definitely a good representation of what Hate's about. Although I think Solar Flesh is their best moment. I think that's definitely the most wholesome record that they've done.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, cool band. I like them. All right, number 84. This is going to be very underground. Not so much like Coma was, because they're just new. But this is a more... It's almost drone metal. Huh? You know, we're talking about like Sun, you know, with Attila, you know, from Mayhem on vocals. Not quite to that droney level. It's still a good, decent amount of black and doom metal.
Hell yeah.
Super doomy.
But this is a band called Mizmor. And Mizmor dropped a record this year called Cairn. And have you guys ever heard of Bellwitch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know that artwork.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is another band that utilized that same man to do the artwork.
Nice.
And it's I think this is probably my favorite artwork of the year, is this album. It's Mizmor, and the record is called Cairn, Cairn. Yeah, this is a record that makes you feel as if you're in like a barren landscape. It's only you and the thoughts in your head, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For being so,
Wow.
yeah.
That's like the perfect. That's pretty much what I imagine hearing
Yeah.
from that.
That is sick.
Yeah, especially with the not exactly title track, but Cairn to God is what the centerpiece of this record is. I think it's definitely like for something that sounds so empty and just having that one big figure in the middle. You definitely did a good job of doing the artwork with that one.
Yeah, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, you know, it just drones through lyrical content that makes you raise questions about yourself. You know, it kind of tackles, you know, subjects of atheism, and, you know, denying what you know, accepting that there really isn't anything. That's what Mizmor is aiming to go for. There's no simple way to say this band is not for everyone. I'm not going to say that. And Cairn is not a record that your average metal listener is going to appreciate. So I'm just going to throw out this, that, you know, especially to the people that appreciate the droning side of doom and black metal. This is 4 tracks, and it's 57 minutes long.
Oh my god.
That was what I was gonna.
Yeah.
Because I saw that on the.
And it is bleak.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It is bleak, especially with my notable track. My one notable track is Cairn to God at, I believe it is nearing 19 minutes of length.
1803.
Yeah. 18 minutes, man. As a person who's not too well versed in this style of metal, admittedly, I found myself really surprised at a number of parts in this record. And even 4 months after this release, I'm still digesting this. Like, because it's, you know, like I said, it's empty. It's very, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. I think that there's just, when things do happen, it's almost like you're entranced, and it's like, oh, I kind of missed that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good thing, because every time I listen to it, it's like, I didn't notice this before. I didn't notice that before. If there's anything to take away here, yeah, Cairn to God, the 18 minutes of seething doom with an intro that gave me legitimate discomfort in the best way possible. I think that's definitely something that people should pay attention to above all else. I know that 57 minutes between 4 tracks is a lot, but that song alone is worth placing this record at number 84.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's an exclusive treat for those who appreciate this style of music and no one else.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I feel like that's kind of because I think we talked about or had a discussion about doom metal last time you guys were on. I think that was one of the things that you brought up was like it's tough if you're not used to like, you know, that style and stuff to really like gravitate towards it and everything.
It is, man. And even in that sense, like with doom metal, it's like there's a total difference between like just regular old doom metal and funeral doom.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just like there was a record last year that a lot of people really liked, and it was called Mournful Congregation. Nathan Barnes suggested it to me, and boy, yeah, like it didn't make my list because I missed out on it too late. But dude, it's just like, dude, there's got to be like 20-second intervals in between the notes played. Like it's just boom, boom. Like it's crazy. Like it just goes to show you that there's even accessible doom metal compared to really tough to access doom metal, you know.
Real.
No.
All right. Aside from that, number 83, Continuum. Continuum is a band that has been around for a decent amount of time, but is now kind of starting to pick up a little bit more pace with Designed Obsolescence that came out on February 22nd through Unique Later. The most notable thing about this record is that it features Riley McShane, vocalist of Allegion. This Continuum is actually his original band. Yeah, he started out with Continuum before being a part of a Legion, or Son of Aurelius, which was another band of his. So yeah, this is Riley McShane at his first. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, technical death metal has just reached a point where a large majority of the bands are rehashing too much of their counterparts. And I think with the pivotal movements that have come through technical death metal, I really enjoy the early brutal stuff, like in Deeds of Flesh and Origin. On the contrary, I think this album follows that pace. It's more brutal, but it is very technical. Like, it definitely qualifies for that, for that subgenre, and I think that it's a welcome change of pace compared to a lot of the technical death metal albums that have come out this year. Rather than focusing on the melody, it focuses on the riff. That has purpose, and that's definitely cool, especially in tracks like Flesh, Release from Flesh and Blood, and the opener Theorem. Yeah, definitely cool stuff, and it's a kind reminder that technical death metal doesn't need to be all flashy to be at its best. I think it's cool to see it go back to where it started with its brutal perspective. Yeah. I think they did a splendid job of giving a proper history lesson to these bands that, like, maybe you should guys, like, brutalize it a little bit more, you know what I mean? Definitely cool. And, a lot of cool moments in this record. And it's not too long. It's nice and short and sweet, you know? Yeah. Continuum is a cool record. I like it. Number 82, get some black metal here with a little bit of influence of thrash metal in 1349.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
1349 did the Infernal Pathway this year, October 18th through Season of Mist. And I think that while this is a great record on its own, it's hard for me because, dude, Massive Cauldron of Chaos, the last record that came out from 1349, is one of my all-time favorites of the genre. It's so good. So to follow that up was tough. I think that this is definitely faithful to that sound, but it's much cleaner in its production. So for black metal, it kind of loses a little oomph for me. But, black metal's still there, absolutely. The speed takes a little bit more prevalence in this record compared to the atmosphere. Especially compared to their older stuff, like Massive Cauldron of Chaos. But the riffage, dude, there's some riffs, man. There's some riffs, especially in Through the Eyes of Stone, man. Oh, my God. Dude, the gallops are...
Well, yes.
Oh, man. Full erection. I love it.
The drummer from Satyricon is in the band?
Yes, that's correct.
Really?
Yes. It's really incredible how tight this band is, and they really showcase it with this record, which is cool because, like I mentioned, how the clean production kind of like loses the oomph of the black metal side, but really brings out that how tight they are. So that's cool. There's positive in that too.
Nice.
Album sets out all it, it achieves all it sets out to achieve, providing, real sharpness that we haven't seen from the band.
Yeah.
Although I do set a couple of their albums higher, it's surely a fine addition to their metal onslaught, that's for sure.
Hell yeah.
Especially after such a long time. I think it's been 4 or 5 years since the last album.
Damn.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
That's a long, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I liked, I haven't heard that entire album talked about him yet, but what I have heard from that, I liked a lot.
Riffs.
They're getting a lot of buzz from it, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 2014 was when that one was.
Yeah, dude.
So...
Yeah.
Been a little while.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad to see him back. That's for sure. Okay. Another quick one here, because this is a little more underground. Through Everlasting Spew Records, released on July 12th, is, I'm going to have a hard time saying this, but I think it's Demirgan. I don't know. Demiurgon. The album's called The Oblivious Lure, and these guys, being Italians, The country's produced a lot of great metal over the years. I think Flesh God Apocalypse being the centerpiece of that.
Between them and Our Penance, that's it.
Yeah, Our Penance is another really big one too. So you see those two bands, whereas Our Penance is really brutal. Taking that side of it. When Flesh God Apocalypse has gone a little bit more, they've always been symphonic, but especially in the recent albums, which we'll talk about that one later in the list too, is more symphonic. This follows more of the Hour of Penance style. A little bit of Blood Truth in there. Hideous Divinity is a bit prevalent well. It's all.
Can already tell I'd really like this one. Just giving off like what you've been saying about it.
Dude, it's very consistent, riffing and slaying the entire time, no doubt. The thing that makes this record stand out a little bit more than its counterparts, like how I mentioned Orphalis earlier, kind of lacks that song structure. This band, Demirjan, really knows how to put emphasis on the peaks of the song structuring. I think that there's build up in a lot of it. The songs are digestible for being a set of tunes that really pummels consistently. And man, I can't stress enough how the closing song, "The Day Dawn Came Twice," another badass closing title. The Day Dawn. The Day Dawn Came Twice. What a motherfucker of a song, man, dude! Yeah. It's intense. I love that song. The only thing that I really disliked about the album is the mix. I thought the vocals were entirely too loud, and it causes certain things to get lost. Even though the vocalist is great, the riffs are too important to get covered this much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's really a lot of great riffs in there. Nonetheless, well-written record. Has a load of interesting passages and make it a standout in the death metal genre this year for sure.
Is it like when you say it's more like Our Penance than Flesh God? Is it fair to say like newer era Flesh God, or like because there's two different kinds? Like
I was saying that it's more like Our Penance rather than Flesh God, being from Italy. Yeah. No symphony stuff in there.
Because even they still like their oracles and a little bit on
Mafia. Yeah.
So that's my shit. Like I was in, like, to be honest, I mean, I don't know, I guess because I'm sure that album's on your list as well. Kind of get to it, but I don't know, that's the one thing that, like, from that style and from that sound of band that like I like.
It's very grandiose.
Yeah, and I almost wish that they would kind of go back to that, like, just riff, like, wall of sound kind of style to me. I don't know, but I don't know. There's something to be said about both sides. So
I agree. I definitely agree. How you feeling over there, buddy?
Good.
You good? A little quiet. You're just soaking it all in, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep pedaling through here. Okay. All right. This is a comeback record, actually.
Don't call it a comeback.
Oh. Yeah, and even that, I was talking about supergroups are a bit of an anomaly. This is, comebacks are kind of weird too.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
You never know.
Well, exactly. You don't know, because the band's been around or away for so long.
Yeah.
And you expect so much.
Exactly.
That sometimes it can kind of fall to the wayside a little bit.
Right, exactly. So imagine when one of the most underground, famous death metal bands comes back after, almost 20 years? I mean, so Nocturnus, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Nocturnus or not.
I've heard their name.
Yeah, they produced a record called The Key.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the original days of death metal, how I was talking about, it's either a lot of gore, it's a lot of Satan, know. Nocturnus was one of the few bands that brought the sci-fi side of things. And The Key is, without a doubt, one of the most important records in the death metal genre. Yet it is seemingly one that is forgotten far too much. I think a lot of people, I think it's a little out there, but I mean, it paved the way for a lot of death metal that took that sci-fi route, that took that spacey route,
Lost did too. Lost
did. yeah, like it's lost out there, you know.
Are there two different versions of this band?
So that's where I'm coming in. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
So technically the new incarnation is called Nocturnus AD. And it's still yes. Yes.
Very
Okay.
like entombed AD kind
Yes,
of deal.
exactly. And I'm not 100% sure why that is, but that's what it is. So Nocturnus AD brings out Paradox, which is thematically a sequel to The Key. So Nocturnus put out a couple of records after The Key, but they were not nearly as good, like nowhere close
Mm-hmm.
at all. Like they were borderline bad compared to what The Key is.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Browning, drummer and vocalist of Nocturnus, who is also known for Morbid Angel.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on Altars of Menace. But, brought back Nocturnus to release an album that, in its musicality and its theme lyrically, is a proper follow-up to The Key.
Nice.
So yeah, it is. I feel like it's a rightful successor to The Key, especially compared to Thresholds, which was the record that came out after The Key. Those two never reached that plateau
Mm-hmm.
that I think Paradox does. A lot of keyboard work that makes Nocturnus so mystifying is still present here. Progressive and technical riffing, and yeah, I think that this record, I think if I had anything negative to say about it, I'm not a fan of the vocals at all, because Mike Browning's vocals used to be so menacing, and now it's just kind of, I don't know, it's a little winded.
Okay.
So that takes away a little bit of it, but everything else, sick, While this is the most faithful follow-up from the band to date, I think the time span between the two records certainly did not do the band or the fans any favors.
Yeah.
And that kind of was what I was talking about with comebacks being problematic.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that necessarily the band's fault? No, but it is a point that still affected how I view Paradox. I think it's a fun listen, but overall I do find myself asking the question, did we really need a follow-up at this point in time?
Fair enough.
I'm
Fair
not
enough.
sure, but I am glad it did happen to some extent, finally. Overall, a good comeback record, but I'm still choosing The Key every time.
Fair enough.
There's so many instances of that where it's even got to the point where it's hard for me to be super excited about like bands coming back.
Right.
In a sense, because it's like on the one side, like it's you got the fan side of things where you hold on so much to what that the defining album meant to you and stuff,
Yeah.
and then they split for how now it's like what 5 to I don't know. I mean that was like what 20. How long was that? Like 20 some odd years between the two albums.
Well, The Key came out, I want to say 1992.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
So you kind of hold on to that, and like you gotta wonder, like, is it gonna have the same lasting impact that it did?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's it's hard as a fan to listen to that and to feel that way, because you want to appreciate the fact that it's the new one that came out after so much time, but it's I mean it might be controversial, but it's the Tool effect to some people.
Right. Yeah.
Like it came out and to mixed reviews, I'm sure, and a lot of people, like myself included, I felt like and it's the same thing. Like, let's say, like, if System of a Down were to come back,
Yeah. So
Like,
problematic.
would I have that same appreciation or love for it that I did when it was out versus the new stuff now?
Yeah.
So I always kind of struggle with that.
Right.
There's some bands though, like Rage, like that.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what Rage Against the Machine would sound like today.
Yeah.
I don't
You know
know,
what I mean?
man.
I'd like to know.
I don't know. That's
tough.
a tough one.
So here's a question then, I guess, since we're on this topic. So let's say if this comes out or something new comes out, and it kind of flops or doesn't really like meet where you're at with it, does it take away from like how you see the band or how you like? No, it's just still just not the favorite.
Oh
album.
darn! I didn't like it as much as I was hoping.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'll go back to listen to stuff I do.
I think the only way that it really would ever affect the way that I see the band is if said new album didn't have a purpose. You know, it's like
just fan service.
You know what I mean? Like especially if you end on such a high note, it's like, did you really need to do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that there are certain bands to where, you know, they come back and they really don't meet that standard, but it's okay because you still have so many great records from them previously.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah.
That was kind of how I felt about At the Gates
a
couple of years ago when it first
yes.
You know.
At the Gates was one that I think had everything to lose.
Yeah.
Following Slaughter of the Soul,
Yeah.
one of the greatest death metal records of all time, one of the greatest metal records of all time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But man, did At War with Reality kick ass.
It's
yeah.
I was glad that it did too, because you know that kind of set it up for the next one. But it was also like that the next, you know, it's like you can feel a little bit of ease knowing that like they didn't really lose the sound or the, you know, the fire for it after so much time. So
yeah, man, hell yeah. All right, so yeah, Nocturnus AD Paradox, cool record. 79. We're gonna go with Immortal Bird. Isn't that a name?
Immortal Bird.
Immortal Bird.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, don't let that name fool you, man. These guys are sharp. These guys are evil, man.
Talons out.
Yeah, man. Chicago fellas, or at least Illinois. I know that much. Yeah, they dropped Thrive on Neglect, which came out on July 5th through $20 spin. And yeah, this is a black and sludge metal combination of some really weird and heavy stuff. It's almost like a love letter to everything weird and heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It brings forth that you know, the black and sludge, but it's also garnished with a bit of death and grind too, you know. And it fucking works. Like there's a lot of different elements to this record that you really wouldn't logistically think would work. But seeing it done is like, oh, yeah, all right.
Oh.
Yeah. Every time I listen to this record, I find it more and more peculiar with how, you know, it takes things that seem like they wouldn't mesh well and make it whole, and their creativity is just top notch. It's cool to see a band like this pushing boundaries in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, right from the opening track, Anger Breeds Contempt. Just punishes hard and lays down the exciting foundation for the rest of the record, you know, with Vestigial Warnings holding up that ferocity, you know, as the third track. Yeah, it's just very, very, very consistent. Although I did find the beginning to be a lot more captivating than the latter part of the record, you know, until the final track of the record. Right. That final track record, Stumbling Towards Catharsis. That song really brought everything full circle, and it's just, you know, it provided the abstract and dismal structure that isn't seen in the rest of the album. It really ties it off well.
Oh, yeah.
I think this album's a very fantastic gateway for Immortal Bird. You know, this is a record of a band that proves that they have a future ahead of them, and it's just all it's going to take is people warming up to this new sound, you know, this very dismal sound. So yeah, you know, when you're ready, pick it up.
Oh yeah.
I think very cool, man. I'm stoked on them. It'll be cool stuff.
The artwork is like, 'cause that's one of the things that I pay attention to. I mean, I'm sure everybody does.
Yeah,
it's just cool. But it reminds me of like Baroness style. That like painted kind of, you know.
I did not think of that before. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I don't know. Just I feel like it has like a, I don't know if like mystical is a good way to put it, but it has like a, you know, like that kind of vibe to it, or that look to it, that it almost seems like you'd be like transported somewhere when you're listening to it, kind of. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no,
it's just what I get from it.
No, it makes sense for sure.
Plus, with the name, I feel like it kind of adds a little more to it than just like, you know.
Right. All right. So number 78. This I do want to remind people that this is not just a metal list. This is also a hardcore list as well. So there are a few hardcore things related in here. So, ooh, that was a little bit of gas. Yeah, let's kick it off. This one might be a little bit polarizing, but at number 78 is Knocked Loose.
Oh.
Glad you're talking about this one.
Yes, with a different shade of blue. Came out on Pure Noise on August 23rd. Man, I do not get the hate for this band.
Yeah,
I
don't
do,
either.
but I don't. I get the hate when it comes to, okay, because here's the thing. I think when people talk about Knocked Loose and how they hate them, it usually comes down to Brian Garris's vocals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just barks. It's barking a lot of the time.
Mm.
Of course, when the other fella's not doing his death metal gutturals.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, admittedly sparingly compared to what Brian Garris is doing. I don't fucking get that point, man. That's hardcore.
Right.
There's a lot of bands. There's so many hardcore bands over the fucking years that it just barked like that.
Yeah.
Like Brian
That's the
Garris
hardcore
ain't
sound.
anything new, you know. I think he might be a little bit more yelpy than some people, but like shit, that's that's the fucking drive of it.
Yeah.
That's the drive of it. I just love hearing somebody just yell uncontrollably.
Yeah. Well, it fits the whole vibe and the whole, like, I keep saying that, but
Yeah.
it just, you know, like that style of vocal really meshes and adds to the music.
Right, exactly. So what makes a different shade of blue their most impressive moment to me, except for maybe like Pop Culture? I love that EP, you know. It's just short 16 minutes of fuck you, you know. But with a different shade of blue, you know, it takes us on a little bit of a tour to see the more mature side of this band, the side that we haven't seen from Knocked Loose yet. There's some legit metal riffs in here.
Oh, yeah.
There are, especially in like Belleville, the opener, dude. There's some thrash influence there. And especially like with the down tempo parts in By the Grave, you know, really cool stuff there. There's a lot of legit metal riffs in here that weren't exactly prominent in the band before. While they stay true to the original Knocked Loose sound, it's cool to see that side of it. You know, very unexpected, but certainly welcome. I definitely like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you're trying to figure out if this album's worthy to listen to, it comes down to those vocals. If you don't like those vocals, you're not gonna change your opinion. But you know, if you love it, this is sick. This is a sick record, and it definitely offers a lot of interesting stuff when it comes to Knocked Loose. I think this is a band that had every opportunity in the world to keep pushing that same shit that's made them so popular over the years. But instead, we see the band giving some refreshing surprises throughout their newest testament to all things metal and hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say, I think, the two Serpent's Touch and In the Walls, some real like dark sounding songs on this one.
Yeah, for a band that really doesn't have any business doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was the thing that kind of kept me listening to it when I first heard it. The first few times, I was like, man, like there's just a dark sounding album for them, and it really and I think the thing that kind of caught my attention was the two singles they put out.
Yes.
Mistakes Like Fractures and Still I Want Her South.
Yeah.
Dude, like those two songs together, just like the way it all ends and stuff, especially Still I Want Her South. Just the video for that's really sick, but also just the way that like the background noises and the different way, like the way the vocalists trade off and stuff is just,
it's abrasive.
Yeah. So I think I wasn't super into them before this year. Like I enjoyed Laugh Tracks, you know, but at the same time I felt like it was kind of missing something. I felt like it was kind of a little more like standard, kind of like, you know, but I feel like this one added that, like that, you know, it added to what they already had established.
I agree.
On the stuff prior to that. So
yeah, it would be cool to see what they do in the future for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so number 77. Let's keep up with that core aspect a little bit. This is more of a mathcore and metalcore kind of deal rather than hardcore. But an independent release from a new band called Sleep Sculptor. With Entry Dispersal.
Cool ass name.
Yes, Sleep Sculptor. They've got a really cool aesthetic about them too. Check out that album artwork for sure. Yeah, you just looking for something batshit crazy. Just want to hear something that sounds unhinged and untethered.
Fuck yeah.
Totally. Let Sleep Sculptor help you with that. This band has come out of nowhere for me to, lay claim to a spot in mathcore greatness. And, it's a concoction of, stuff like Dillinger Escape Plan, Converge, as far as the older influences go in mathcore, but meshed with newer stuff like The Chariot and Tony Danza, stuff like that, really frenetic, frantic stuff.
All right.
Totally uncensored tomfoolery on this record.
Based off of that description, I feel like I'd love the fuck out of this album.
Oh yeah. Especially I think the star, while all the instruments just go off like crazy, I think the star is definitely the vocalist Hunter Durr.
Yeah.
You hear hints of like Josh Scoggin from, Norma Jean and the Chariot, Greg Puciato from Dillinger, and even a little bit of Mike Chronica from The Devil Wears Prada. You can hear that kind of shout in there, laced with some other interesting surprises along the way. Really did want to put this record higher on the list, but while it's a fantastic record overall, it's so fucking short.
I was gonna say 20 minutes.
It's 20 minutes and it's like 7 or 8 songs.
Yeah.
Maybe more than that. I can't recall.
I just like the A Deity Conceived in a Petri Dish.
Yes, and that is the best track on the record too. Yes, absolutely.
The last song, I found that the last song usually is like a high point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that song definitely finishes out well. Along with Water Under the Bridge is a great track as well. All the songs end just as they get me going. And I'm sure that they wrote these songs with the intention of being short. I'm not here to refute any of their artistic integrity when it comes to that. It's just as a listener, I felt a strong desire for more, which can be good or bad depending on the situation. I just felt in this case the total of, 20 minutes you said, of this album got me attached big time, and I'm pretty bummed that I have to wait forever or for however long it takes for more.
Mm-hmm.
If that was your goal, Sleep Sculptor, then congratulations, I guess. You fucking nailed it. But yeah, I want more. And yeah. All right. So here's another one that might be a little bit more obvious, might not. But at 76, those Aussie boys, Thy Art Is Murder.
The Aussies.
Oh, shit.
They make the list.
Yes, Thy Art Is Murder with Human Targets.
I'm slightly surprised this isn't higher up on your list.
Yeah, came out on July 26th through Nuclear Blast. This is easily the most popular deathcore band of today. I think that much can be said with... Considering
giant right now.
Well, considering the fact that, when you think about the other deathcore heavyweights over the years, like Suicide Silence has gone such a downhill track with their last record. And Whitechapel is actually doing better than they ever have, I think, from a business aspect, but can't say that it's exactly what they were known for. They're not exactly a straight deathcore band anymore, so I think Thy Art Is Murder is a pretty fair, contender for being the most popular deathcore band right now. The key word here is consistency. This band has been incredibly consistent ever since they put out Hate, which is arguably their opus, their magnum opus. Even in, a proper representation of deathcore, I think a lot of people, when they think of deathcore, I think Hate is one that comes up. But I think anyone that's really paid attention to the record since then can see that they've indeed, altered their attitude here and there for the benefit of the music, but it's stayed pretty similar over the years.
Yeah.
Mm.
The reason why, because I think a lot of people fault Thy Is Murder for that, oh, they put out the same record every time or whatever. Dude, there is such power in that consistency that nobody will ever understand.
Yeah.
You don't understand how much it takes to be successful keeping that unique sound, because a lot of people, that battle, especially as an artist, you're going to understand that people get upset when you change shit. People get upset when you stay the same.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. So for Thy Is Murder to achieve this much success, especially with Human Target, staying the same for the most part, I don't know. I think that's really cool. I think that's really fucking cool. We see a little bit more death metal influence in Human Target that we saw implemented in Dear Desolation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely a lot more riffing going on that's combined with the breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see this especially in like Death Squad Anthem, and a little bit more darker in Welcome Oblivion and Chemical Christ too.
Yeah.
I think that, Human Target, simply put, it toys around with some new ideas, doesn't exactly pave new direction in the meantime, but why should it? The great thing about the band is that they found the sound that is immediately recognizable and they have run with it.
Yeah.
And they still, while not messing with that formula, they still managed to implement really great live staples, because obviously, like, they're, really pumping out, like, Death Squad Anthem and New Gods, is definitely going to be one that's powerful in the track. And obviously the title track, the opening song of the record, Human Target, it just bangs.
Yeah.
It's got all the necessary components for
Yeah.
a great Thy Is Murder song.
I feel like with every album that they put out, like the space between, or like because they always put out a few different singles or like just like one-offs, and I feel like every time they put one of those out that's not associated with an album, it always like kind of leads into what they're going for next. And I didn't really feel like that was any exception with because I think wasn't the that was before Dear Desolation, the Depression Sessions. And that was even like, like that sound and some of the stuff that they were doing and like No Absolution and stuff was still like, it was sort of alluding toward that sound, and I feel like they've done nothing but like add to that and kind of play to their strengths a lot.
Yeah,
So.
I agree with that much very well.
And I'll say the middle half of the album is like there's some
It's definitely the
bangers on it.
strongest part
Yeah.
for sure. With Welcome Oblivion and Eye of the Enemy.
Yeah.
Dude. I think that's really where Thy Is Murder showcases a bit of new perspective for sure. I agree with that. But yeah,
Great album.
I do got to point
That's
out
good.
though, and I'm sure so many people say this. Obviously, I think the one thing that really turned me or put this record lower is the Make America Hate Again. I will definitely defend this band on their consistency, and I will defend them on mostly not copying their previous shit. That song is fucking Puppet Master.
That's what I heard
That song
too.
is Puppet Master.
That's how I've always thought about it too,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, no fault, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, any artist can do whatever they do, but man, yeah, that song is fucking Puppet Master.
It's to a point where I feel like there's gonna be one song like that on every album from here until
I agree.
and that's I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know. Like
Right.
it's I also feel like it's very like redneck, Lamb of God sounding.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about that a few times.
Yes. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so we are at the quarter turn here with 75.
Oh.
This is taking a minute.
Welcome, everyone.
I'm having fun. Are you
Yeah,
guys
man.
having fun?
Oh, yeah.
Good song.
It's just nerding the fuck out.
Yeah,
You know?
it's what it's all about. It's
Okay.
what I was excited about. So
So another big one, actually, and I just mentioned them recently, but number 75, we have Whitechapel coming in. Yes.
a lot to say about
The
this one.
Valley.
Yes, The Valley. Came out March 29th through Metal Blade.
Early in the year release.
I think this is easily one of the most talked about deathcore records, you know, of 2019, easily.
Yeah,
Yeah, in this record, you know, we're seeing a band at their most mature. I think. Well, I mean, you know, I think that word is a little fickle, you know, because what really is mature. But I should say that this is them at their most accessible, and I think that song structure wise, this is definitely the most accessible record that they've done. But compared to like, because I think most people can agree that really the turning point of Whitechapel is when they started doing Our Endless War, and you can see a little bit more mainlined structuring in there.
yeah.
And especially with Mark of the Blade.
Mm-hmm.
I think those two, I think Our Endless War did all right enough for itself, and Mark of the Blade kind of was a dud for them. I think that's where we kind of really see them straying away from absolutely putrid material like This Is Exile, New Era, and Corruption, you know, and of course the Somatic Defilement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think where the Valley succeeds, even though it's still lighter, it's still their lightest material to date. I would go as far as saying that. I think where it succeeds is that on the last two records, I think they forgot how to write proper songs. I think they kind of just drone along a little bit, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's just like, it's just there, you know? These songs really stand well on their own, apart from each other or together. You know, I think, you know, while they haven't had their most popular, songs amongst like their pure deathcore fan base, I think we're, you know, seeing songs that are crafted with purpose and they maintain interest throughout their entirety rather than hanging on to one or two ideas during their duration. You can especially see this, you know, like in the album opener, When a Demon Deviles a Witch, you know. I think that song really sets the tone of the record well, even if there isn't as many fast parts as there are in that song. And of course, its follow-up, Forgiveness is Weakness. I think that's the most Whitechapel song that's come out since at least the self-titled. You know, I think like that song pounds away.
I feel like that could even fit on the self-titled in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fucking heavy.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I really wanna point out is the clean vocals. I really don't like using that word, so I'm just gonna call it singing because that's what it fucking is. Clean vocals. That stuff's so dumb. I fucking hate it. It's just singing and screaming, you dumb bitch. I think that because we see it utilized in two different instances, mainly throughout this record, and that's with Hickory Creek, which is the obvious ballad of the record.
Yeah.
And then we see it in Third Depth. I think that Hickory Creek, while it's all right in itself, I think that was them trying to put out something that maintains the accessibility of the record, but doesn't really do any favors to bringing them back to what they once were. You know what I mean? I think it's a decent song. I think I don't know. I could see myself getting annoyed with it pretty quick. But Third Depth, though, that song is not even comparing it to anything else. It's fucking phenomenal. There is so much emotion in Third Depth throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that song is so well crafted. It's crazy. There's even parts through that song like I don't know if anybody else really got this, but I kind of felt like I was listening to like a Perfect Circle, like Maynard James Keenan a little bit.
Yeah. I could kind of get that.
Like, it's just Phil Bozeman really has a beautiful voice, and I think that he utilized it a lot better in Third Depth than he did in Hickory Creek.
Yeah.
So yeah, while the Valley is a far cry from what Whitechapel once was, I think that it's worth noting that this is certainly the closest they've come in quality, not necessarily in sound, but in quality of the songwriting since their golden years. While the record certainly isn't any promise that they're going back to that sound, it does offer a very palatable sound that I think is going to bring this band at least to heights that they've never been before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think kind of like, especially more with the vocals and stuff, but and a little bit in the songwriting aspect.
Yeah.
You could kind of see that from the last two albums that were like where they were trying to go with this one. And I feel like it led to a lot of that, like that experimenting with the more of the clean vocals and more of the more of the singing, yeah. And the you know, like the bigger, like, I don't want to say like radio songs, but the more like, you know, like, I guess accessible songs. And I feel like this one, it, you know, being that it is kind of like a loose concept, I feel like a lot of the songs kind of matched with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the singing on it definitely added to that.
Ties together pretty well, yeah.
It wasn't like my only thought is I wish that it would have, at least like the last song would have, or like the last half, it would have ended just a little bit stronger.
I agree with that. I think We Are One is a cool track for what it is, but other than that, yeah, like Lovelace kind of gets a little lost.
Yeah. I feel like if there would have been like one more song maybe at the end of it, to kind of like just wrap it all up.
Yeah.
You know.
Cool.
Good album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really sick.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's definitely a big turn. But yeah, no, I think everything you said is right because I think it's gonna get them way bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And you can already see it too.
Yeah.
They're headlining some side stages at like overseas festivals that I never really thought that was gonna be available to them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really cool. Yeah. Talk about some more deathcore.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Holy shit. Are we fucking rolling along? So that's it, everyone. That is the first part of this 4-part episode of Clint's Top 100. Man, there are some monsters in there, aren't there? That new Rotting Christ, that new Thy Art Is Murder. Oh man, there are some monsters in there for sure, and so many more. Oh my god, such an amazing list already. This is insane. Look, those were the fucking 25 to kick it off. We're just getting started. Not even halfway through yet, believe it or not. So, man, oh man, there are some fucking gems right on there. Love it. Hope you all are enjoying so far. If you are, thank you so much for still listening. And just a quick reminder, all 4 episodes of this are out right now. So if you listen to this one, you liked what you heard, you want to hear more, the next one is up already. So I hope you continue listening. I hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, onward, on to 74. Here we go. Love you all to death.